Page 480, verse 10 of Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Did you get it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When the Maha Shakti is aroused by the various asanas, pranayamas, and mudras, the prana dissolves into shunya. Shunya is void, but it is not a state of nothingness. It is a very deep and dynamic state of consciousness. It is the cause and origin of that which constitutes the manifest universe. It is Bindu, or the nucleus. According to sage Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, oh wait, did I read this one? Yeah, I read this one yesterday. Well, I guess I'll just keep reading it since it's here. According to sage Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Shunya is the step before the final samadhi. The word Shunya is used generally to describe the unfolding process between Asmita Samadhi and Nirvana. Shunya also describes the state of Asampranjanata Samadhi, or the negative phase of Samadhi. Just as the word Samadhi describes the rage of super-consciousness, so Shunya describes all the negative phases of Samadhi in which there is unconscious super-consciousness, awareness of the object, onlooker, and looking. Awareness of the object, onlooker, and looking are absorbed into one. The symbol shines in the consciousness, but there is no consciousness of it. That awareness is held by the subtle existence of vasana in the causal body or unconscious mind. The Vijnana Bhairava Tantra states, O goddess, if one, after casting one's gaze on some object, withdraws it slowly and eliminates the knowledge of that object, along with the thought and impression of it, he abides in shunya, the void. At this point of samadhi, you become totally helpless. According to Buddhism, there are 4 types of shunya, which are described as phenomena and shunya, clearness and shunya, bliss and shunya, consciousness and shunya. However, Mahayana Buddhism has categorized shunya into 18 categories. Shunya of internal sensory response, shunya of external sensory perception, shunya of both internal and external sensory stimuli, shunya, the great shunya of space, real shunya, compounded shunya as the universe, uncompounded shunya of the unmanifest, infinite shunya, beginningless shunya, remainderless shunya, natural shunya, shunya of phenomena, shunya of predication, shunya of non-thought, shunya of immateriality, shunya of reality, shunya of non-substantiality of reality. This is a very involved classification compared to the yogic definition, in which there are 3 distinct stages which intercept and come after Vitarka Samadhi, Vichara Samadhi, and Asmita Samadhi. Verse 11 and 12. The Sahaja state is conquered on its own, occurs by itself, in him whose remaining karmas are abandoned and who experiences the rising of Shakti. When prana is flowing through Sushumna, mind is in pure shunya, then all the karmas of the one knowing yoga are uprooted. In the process of samadhi, the evolution of individual consciousness and Shakti is very rapid and systematic. It is a process of refining the ego, vasanas, and mind, which are intricately linked. Once mind and prana are reabsorbed into the source, the vasanas also become non-existent. The Shiva Samhita states, he who always contemplates on the hidden ajna lotus at once destroys all the karmas of his past without any opposition. The store of karmas and vasanas is not entirely burnt until Dharma Mega Samadhi has taken place. When Kundalini Shakti reaches Sahara Chakra, then the last traces of karma, vasana, and ego are destroyed. As the Kundalini moves up Sushumna, the various samskaras stored in each of the chakras are pulled forth into manifestation. These samskaras are expressed through the ego. The process of samadhi is involution of Shakti into pure consciousness. It is the process of eliminating the base supports of individual mind. Vasana is not something bad. It is responsible for the will to live. If it is completely eradicated before self-realization takes place, you will be removing your will to live. In Vedic and Tantric philosophy, there are said to be four main desires deep-rooted within every person. These are artha, acquirement of wealth and commodities; kama, gratification of sensual desire; dharma, to perform social, ethical, moral, and natural duty; moksha, liberation. Our desires are expressions of one of these four aspects. Some desires are superficial, but the deep-rooted desires, or vasanas, are hidden within the deepest levels of consciousness in the causal body. Desires lead to action, and these actions create some scars or impressions in the mind. Samskara is residue of experience, like a seed buried in the soil. Each experience we have is recorded and stored in the unconscious mind and body in a symbolic form. When samskaras are not re-experienced, they are transferred deep within the subtle body, and if they are not re-expressed, they are buried deeper. These suppressed samskaras are expressed in our dreams, behavior patterns, and diseases. In Samkhya, Vedanta, and Hindu philosophy, samskara is considered to be the primal form of existence. Every action is an expression of our previous samskaras. The force of desire to experience is channeled through Ida Nadi, and the force which leads to action is channeled through Pingala Nadi. The two nadis have to be brought together. It is not a matter of eradicating them or suppressing them. The force channeled through both these nadis has to be channeled through Sushumna. Only then can their influence be nullified. In Hatha Yoga, we approach the problem of desire, vasana, impression, samskara, karma, action, and reaction by uniting these two channels of chitta and prani shakti. According to the Vijnana Purana Tantra, samskara has to be handled by directly controlling the mind through meditation. Having observed a desire that sprung up, the aspirant should put an end to it immediately. It will be absorbed in that very place from which it arose. When a desire or knowledge of it appears, the aspirant should, with the mind withdrawn from all objects, fix his mind on it, the desire, as the self with a capital S. Then he will have the realization of the essential reality. If one succeeds in immobilizing the mind, an example makes it one-pointed. When under the sway of desire, anger, greed, infatuation, arrogance, and envy, the reality underlying these states alone subsists. Man has freedom of thought and action, freedom of will inherent in him, but at the same time, he is totally subject to the laws of cause and effect. An example, karma, the law of destiny. Everything in this world, everything in this universe is subject to the laws of cause and effect, and man is no exception. That is called destiny. According to the doctrine of karma, karmas of three types. Karmas are of three types: accumulated karmas, current karmas, fructifying karmas. It can be compared to having $10,000 and putting it in a fixed deposit account. That fixed deposit is one form of karma. From that, you get an interest at the point of maturity, and that is another form of karma. On top of this, when you are earning, what you are earning is current karma. It is always being deposited into your current account. These three types of karma are constantly accumulating and being expressed. Our previous state of life is, therefore, the effect of a previous cause, but at the same time, it is also the cause for some further effect. Destiny and free will always act together, and they have to be combined together. They move together and cannot be separated from each other. Up to a certain level of evolution, you cannot do anything to modify your destiny. But when you are exposed to spiritual life and you practice concentration and your mind attains strength and willpower, then you are in a position to implement free will together with destiny. You will suffer, and I'm just putting words where they don't belong. You suffer and you enjoy your past karmas, but at the same time, through your willpower, you are integrating new types of karma with the day-to-day experiences you are having now. This is how the doctrine of karma and the law of spiritual evolution operates. Man is a slave of destiny and a master of his own willpower. But through the practices of yoga, he can influence the underlying forces governing his existence. Verse 13. O immortal one, salutations to you who have mastery over time, by whose jaws the animate and inanimate alike are devoured. The sloka pays homage to the yogi who has realized the self, capital S, self, that which is the origin of all, which is beyond the effects of duality, time and space, and which encompasses all. There is nothing manifest or unmanifest, which is not part of it. Nothing can be taken from it, because wherever you put that which has been removed, it remains a part of the Supreme. According to the Vedas, the universe we know exists during the day of Brahma. In comparison to the lifespan of Brahma, which is considered as 100 years, our own life and death is like that of a minute body cell. Each day of his life is divided into 4 Maha Yuga cycles, which occur 1,000 times. Satya or Krita Yuga, which is 1,728,000 Earth years. Treta Yuga, which is 1,296,000 years. Dwapara Yuga, 864,000 years, and Kali Yuga, 432,000 years. We have just entered the Kali Yuga. We are on just the threshold. In terms of universal time, the time we understand is almost meaningless. It is only relevant to our present reality. For an astronaut in space, the whole concept of time is altered. Similarly, when you go deep into your own consciousness, the concept of time is altered. The deeper you go, the less influence it has on awareness. At the very center of creation and your own being, time cannot exert an influence. When time ceases to exist, so does creation. The Avadhuta Gita states that there is no such thing as animate and inanimate. There is only one true state of pure consciousness. All this is verily the absolute self. Distinction and non-distinction do not exist. How can I say it exists? It does not exist. I am filled with wonder. The destroyed and undestroyed are both false. The born and unborn are both false. If there is only one indivisible and all comprehensive absolute, how can there be perishable and imperishable? Verse 14. When the mind is in equanimity and prana, vayu, proceeds through Sushumna, then Amaroli, Vajroli, and Sahajroli are attained. The purpose of Vajroli, Sahajroli, and Amaroli is to reverse the natural downward flow of Apana so that the Vayu flows upwards through Sushumna. When it is achieved, the external mind becomes instantly tranquil, and the awareness enters the inner dimensions. Mental equanimity means a steady mind, peaceful and unflinching in every circumstance. Reversal of Apana Vayu through Sushumna is the primary accomplishment, yet it is more difficult to cope with that experience and positively sustain it. In this sense, Vajroli, Sahajroli, and Amaroli are not physical practices, but indwelling attitudes or states of perfection. A strong yet flexible mind can never be an overnight attainment. This process takes many years. It has been said many times that the mind which wavers under the influence of the mundane joys, sorrows, and tragedies of human existence will certainly be found lacking in the face of the greater experience. The mind which habitually flees from pain, clings to pleasure, rests in indolence, and fails in self-discipline is not an evolved mind. It will inevitably fail to sustain the experience of greater awareness and power, should it occur. This is why many years are traditionally allotted for the perfection of the mudras for attaining contentment. The greatest and most desirable guru is actually not the one who can precipitate the awakening through Shaktipat. It is the one who guides, inspires, understands, coaxes, and cajoles the disciple systematically through the obstacles, disciplines and karmic experiences, so that the sustained awakening and descent of power occurs without mishap in a disciple whose life already reflects virtue, self-restraint, wisdom, benevolence, and contentment. I'll read verse 15, and then we can pause. Verse 15, how can there be inner knowledge in the mind as long as prana is alive and mind is not dead? As long as the twofold nature of mind and prana can be quiescent, liberation is attained. It is not possible for any other person. Inner knowledge becomes effulgent of its own accord because it is always there, just as the sun on a cloudy day has not ceased to exist, but has only become obscured. When the mind becomes quiescent, I don't know this word, quiescent. Let me look it up.
You put both her laptop.
Quiescent is in a state or period of inactivity or dormancy. When the mind becomes quiescent, the prana becomes steady. It is revealed. The task is not to struggle for illumination, but only to quiet the mind and steady the body and its prana. Then the light will inevitably shine forth. The very nature of the mind is split. On account of this, a constant struggle appears to go on. The lower instinctive subconscious mind demands one thing, and the discriminative higher mind dictates the opposite. Similarly, the pranas are subject to constant modification by the sense perceptions and experiences, and these uphold and sustain the mental turmoil. Therefore, conflict and disharmony between mind and body, Ida and Pingala, are inherent in human existence before enlightenment. Conflict is the unavoidable characteristic of the twofold nature before union is achieved. This conflict is the driving force not only in individual evolution, but also in social evolution and planetary evolution. Without friction and conflict, there is no life. However, the problem of bondage and suffering arises when we fail to appreciate the significance of conflict in the personal and cosmic pageant. We become identified with the conflict. We take sides, we pay fluctuating allegiance to one side or the other, and so pass into bondage because we lose sight of the greater role of conflict within the total scheme of existence. Liberation remains impossible within the confines of duality. Dual experiences, twofold nature inherently causes struggle, but the moment the two opposing natures cooperate, inner knowledge and union are experienced. Are not night and day opposing one another and thus sustaining our planetary environment? Do not brothers struggle within the greater unfoldment of the family life? Do not two supporting teams oppose one another within the framework of greater spectacle and competition? Is there not conflict in the marital relationship within the confines of a greater union? Therefore, for realization, it is important to be able to recognize and appreciate the greater union, which is being forged out of apparent opposition and conflict. This is the meaning of spiritual perspective. Thought, desire, and action have to coordinate and cooperate if there is to be inner wisdom and illumination. So long as there is conflict, there is no room for anything else. One could hardly expect to sit quietly with a man of wisdom in a crowded room with many stray animals and beggars coming and going. So long as your pranas are running wild, so long as the vrittis of the mind are turbulent, how can unfoldment take place? Inner awakening can only occur when there is complete stillness and steadiness in the body, mind, and soul. The Drigdrisa Veka states, Buddhi, higher intellect, appears to possess luminosity on account of the reflection of consciousness within. Buddhi is twofold. One is designated ahamkriti, egoism. The other is anta karana, mind. As long as these two modifications of buddhi exist, the consciousness illuminating it cannot be perceived. Inner knowledge means perceiving that from which the mind and prana have sprung. The consciousness does not rise nor set, it does not increase, nor does it suffer decay. Being self-illumined, it illumines everything else without any other aid. So, oh, I lost my Zoom. Okay, there we are. I will pause. I really liked, so Alexandra, the past, like finishing up chapter 3 and beginning chapter 4, I felt like these chapters are like wrapping it all up nicely with a nice bow. I feel like I can wrap my head around what she's saying in these in these verse slokas. And I love talking about like karma and like thinking about how our past, not even just if you believe in like past life, but even just like your past of this current life, how it's led you to this exact moment, and how like whatever your path is going forward, it's like sort of been laid out already. And I tell myself that if I run into a situation, I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I tell myself like that every day. I'm like, this is how it's supposed to be, and it just calms me down a little bit, even if it's bad.
I'm having a hard time still calming my mind. And I think the only thing that is going to get me there from what I'm gathering is meditation.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, even when I was just reading today, I was holding my teacup in my hand when I started like this. And as I'm reading, my mind is thinking, why are you holding your teacup in your hand? It was so distracted by my teacup in my hand that I had to put it down because I couldn't concentrate on just doing one thing. And I feel like it was like such a good example, but I was so aware of it because of how much meditation I've been doing. Normally, I would just feel, I wouldn't know why I was feeling that way. I would just feel the anxiety building, but I wouldn't be able to place it to the teacup. And then another time I was reading, and the monitors, I had my desk in front of me and the monitors were on, but they dimmed because they were like stationary for so long. And it was a distraction. And instead of like, I could see my mind wanting to go that way, but instead I could just, that idea of like pulling it back, that's what I'm practicing so much in meditation.
So I do that constantly. When I was reading, the first 2 times I read, I didn't catch anything that I read. That's why I was like, oh, I don't know if I should read. I'm too busy reading and maybe like concentrating on how I'm performing with the reading that I'm not listening to what I'm reading. And then I was so proud of myself, like the 3rd time, it's only there. But while we're doing the reading, that's what I'm doing. Oh, my mind just strayed, bring it back, you know? So I want to get to the place where it's not straying.
Yeah, but we were talking about like this idea of instant gratification. I think it came up in this book somehow, but we were turning to like talking about like how Amazon Prime, we get our packages like the next day. And I do this all the time when I work out. Like I did this workout tape at my home yesterday. And like, you know, you feel so strong after you do it. You expect to go look in the mirror and look at yourself like a bodybuilder, like after one time. I'm like, where are my abs? And it's the same thing with meditation. Like it's not just like, it's like going back to the Yoga Sutra. It's like, you have to have the discipline. You have to do it for a really long time, and a really long time, even I've been doing this for 9 months, isn't that long of a time. Like a really long time, whatever you define that as, that's a personal thing. But like, we do meditation for one day and we expect immediately to have all the superpowers of being able to pull it back, but it's going to take time. It's just like your mind is as physical a muscle as the rest of your body. So like, imagine trying to do like a plank or a push-up. Like, it's not like you're not going to do it one time and be super strong. Like, you have to build strength. and you have to do it every day.
What
The
if
only
you-
thing that they say is that if you stop physical exercise, like your planking and your push-ups and stuff, you lose it. Like if you don't do it for 3 months, when you go back, you're going to be starting backwards. You're not going to leave off. You're not going to pick up where you left off. With meditation, they say that where you left, you don't lose it. So if you practice for 3 months and then you take a month off, when you pick back up, you pick up where you left off. So I think people get discouraged. You know, like I know I'm not going to talk about people, I'll talk about myself. Like if I don't go to yoga for a month or I don't do any exercise for a month, I start really beating myself up. Like just it's not even a physical thing for me. I exercise more for mental and emotional well-being than I do for physical. But if I don't do it, I'm like, well, I haven't done it for this long, why bother? I might as well not do it anymore and just become like a fat couch potato blob. But that's not true. Like that's just my mind taking over because it's not healthy, because I'm not taking care of it. Like I got to get back to the physical and I got to get back to the mental. So I think knowing that for meditation, it's just like an extra bonus. Like if you take a few days off, don't beat yourself up over it. Just come back. Or if it's a few weeks or months or even a year. Yeah. And I think you may not know, I think taking time off from meditation is helpful, because with meditation, you may not realize how much it's benefiting you until you walk away from it and you're like, wow, it really is changing my life. And so I do think taking those times off are helpful.
Yeah, I did get pretty angry this weekend, like seriously angry. And I hadn't meditated in like, well, I didn't come every day for like 2 weeks or so. I meditated though, maybe like once or twice a week. But yeah, it was quite a difference. I was contemplating murder in my mind.
Oh boy.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Meaning I was so angry that I want to like beat somebody up kind of thing. No good.
I mean, it's fair to feel those feelings. Those are human feelings. Like you're valid to feel those feelings, but the major difference with feeling feelings and acting on feelings, having that pause, like you didn't go out and do what you were feeling. I think that is a sign of a healthy mind. Some people can't, and they go and do the bad. They don't have healthy minds. This is my opinion, but the fact that you were able to like stop on yourself and just feel the feelings, it's okay. Like if the more we bury those feelings, they're just going to keep coming back anyway. So you're acknowledging the feelings and however you can work through them, because like what she was just talking about, those feelings create some scars, the impressions in your mind. So figuring out how you can work through them now while they're like fresh at the surface so that they don't keep getting buried down, creating impressions. And that this is like work I try to do. And then that becomes part of your karma of like, this is what's going on now. But however you act to it now is going to create the impression, so that if it happens again in the future, your mind is going to either react how you just did because you have the impression, or you can rewire yourself to act differently so that next time maybe you act a little differently, or maybe not.
I'm getting impatient because, it's like I'm always almost there. And, you know.
Well, don't get attached to the result. Just do it for the sake of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the expectation that messes us up in like everything in life. That's why we get so angry. So we have an expectation that wasn't met, So part of living in the world, in a more peaceful way, is dealing with our expectations. It's what Pam was talking about, like finding a sense of surrender. And in that, there's an acceptance of the feelings that arise in the moment. Like, I thought it was interesting too, Pam, that she brought that up today. I've never heard that about samskara, but I've always like innately felt that when you suppress your feelings,
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean don't act. I mean, it doesn't mean don't feel. It means like, how are you acting from the feeling? It's different. Like when you feel the feeling completely and you think about it and you deal with it and you process it, it doesn't create as deep of a samskara. And as you were reading, I kept hearing the word scar, scar, scar. So it's
Mhm.
like, how deep of a scar are we letting our lives create? My husband was telling me about this therapy that they do for people with trauma, which I had never heard of before, but they have them focus on like a dot on the screen as they're feeling their feelings and reprocessing experiences that were traumatic. And it's actually like healing PTSD for people. And it made me think about drishti practice that we're always taught in yoga as we deal with processing samskaras, right? As the feeling comes up and the thought comes up, we identify it, we decide, is this helpful or not helpful? Is this leading me towards bondage or freedom? And there's always like a one pointed focus. That's the point we have to get to before we could do those practices. And it must be because we can process them without creating deeper scars. It had little connections today, very interesting. But yeah, so you'll feel angry. Like they did this study where they had meditators in a room and they had taught new meditators in one room, and it was the first time meditating, and they had senior meditators in the other room, and they set off these alarms at 10 minutes to see who would react more. Like they had electrodes and everything attached to them. And the ones who reacted more deeply were the seasoned meditators, but then they pulled themselves back to a baseline immediately. The new meditators got less agitated, but stayed agitated at that level. Like they couldn't calm themselves back down. So it's not that like when you get into these spaces, you stop feeling angry, or you stop feeling sad, or you stop feeling emotions. You don't become a robot or anything like that. Like the emotions still happen. It's just you're able to process them in the minute,
Oh, you're
process them in the
making me
moment.
feel so much better. Thank you. Because that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like everybody who's starting meditation gets that same feeling that you're getting. It's like totally normal. And it is a misinterpretation and like people get confused when they're like, I'm just going to stop thinking. Like I'm meditating, so I'm going to quiet my mind and stop thinking, or like I'm meditating, so I'm always going to be happy now. Like that is not how it works. Those are people who have never been taught in a proper tradition, in my opinion, who think that happens, like as Pam was saying, like you are able to observe your mind going in whatever direction. It's like you realize the difference between you and your mind. And that makes it powerful. My mind is feeling angry right now. How can I process that? That's different than I am angry, right? When we embody the anger as who we are, we can't let go of it, we can't move past it. It's like that, it's that expectation. It's that expectation when it's a false identity that we create, right? The mind is thinking that we are our minds is a false identity. That's like a big thing that we can move through in the yoga practice that brings really deep freedom. Like I just talked to my best friend last night on the phone. Okay, baby, one second. She's so cute. I talked to my best friend on the phone last night because she just found out we had COVID in our house, and she's like, how are you not like out of your mind right now, and like still laughing with me on the phone? And I was like, I have so many tools. If I didn't have all these tools, I'd probably be in a psychiatric hospital right now. Like she's like, every couple of days you're telling me this like catastrophic thing that happened to you. And it's really 2020 has been like that. At one point the yoga studio was on fire, and she mentioned it yesterday, and I was just like hysterically laughing because I totally forgot about that. So many like crazy horrible things have happened since then. But yeah, it's just like that's the nature of the material world. If we don't have tools to deal with it, it's not going to be happy all the time. It's not going to be easy all the time. Sometimes it will be, some other times it won't. Hills and valleys, right? So if we can't ride the waves, then we're always going to be suffering. That's why there's a yoga system. If you can anchor yourself and be present, you can process it very quickly. You process it and process it and process it. No matter what comes up, you find a way to process it. And then you can like keep moving on with your life and keep going and be okay internally. That's like the equanimity that we're striving for. And it happens naturally the more you do the practices, right? You can't force it. Like some people are like, I'm just going to stay they hear the word equanimous in teacher training, and they're like, I'm just going to be equanimous all the time. And like, they're still like burning up inside and like totally emotional and like just attached to everything. And they're just like causing a schism in their brain because it makes them or forces them to not accept the feelings that arise for them or not accept the experience that their body mind is having. So it like actually pushes them deeper into suffering, having expectations of yourself like that. So something that happens in the practice is, okay, right, you get to a point where you're like, okay, my body mind's feeling angry right now. What can I do about that? It's like totally liberating. It was like such a great example, Pam. Like, okay, my mind is getting distracted by the teacup. I'm gonna put the teacup down. Like, that's it. And then you don't think about the teacup again, right? Normally people are like, I'm distracted by the teacup. I'm supposed to be equanimous. I'm supposed to this. I'm supposed to that, right? And they end up becoming, what is Ram Dass? Ram Dass calls it phony holy.
Oh, funny. I think some people don't even know it's the teacup that's even like, that's like the way problem. It's like, you don't even know what's bothering you and you're just angry and upset all the time. It's like, it's the teacup in your hand, dude. Just put it down.
You guys are
Right.
making me feel good because I kind of operate the way you're describing. But I'm getting impatient that, damn it, it happened again. Damn it, it happened again.
Well, there are predictable obstacles on the path that we're taught in our tradition. So that's why we're able to even, like, this isn't coming from me and Pam. This is like thousands-year-old tradition. You know what I mean? Like that we're just, it's helped us and we're trying to impart it to you. We create identities around things that we want to be and things that oh dear, Isabella, things that we don't want to be. So they say it's addiction and aversion are two sides of the same coin. So like, I want to be enlightened now, or I don't want to be angry now. They cause the same problems because it's like an identity that we aren't. The identity is really the thing that's observing.
And I think too, like that, this happens to me too, Alexandra, where it's like, why does this keep happening to me? But instead of getting attached to that thought, I'm like, why is this keep happening to me? And I can almost laugh at it. It's like Amanda said, it's almost like a surrender to it. It's like, this is going to keep happening to me until I break a cycle. There's a lesson here. And like, patience was a huge part of my lesson. Like, that kept coming up. And so I've sorted this out, patience out.
That's a good one. That's probably what it is. You got to learn.
Yeah, and so I think, like Amanda said, like, you're going to keep getting obstacles they're already laid out on your path. But if something keeps happening to you, like, there's something, like, for when something keeps happening to me, it's not the thing it's something else. And it's like looking at a bigger picture and being able to pull myself out of that one thing and like see what's going on. Yeah, I think that's another part of it. Amanda, just going back to like this whole idea, what you were just talking about, would you say, I'm still trying to like understand spiritual bypassing. Would that be like an example of spiritual bypassing if you were like, I'm just going to ignore all my feelings?
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like a lot of people, ow, easy. A lot of people are, she's squeezing my boob. A lot of people are like, they think that like, if I'm a spiritual person, I can't have feelings anymore about things. And like, I can't accept the material the material suffering of others anymore. Like that was a big issue of why it was coming up in the yoga community during the most recent Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah,
because they'd say like, why don't you just be happy?
yeah.
It was like almost like they were given a shallow interpretation of the sutras and were actually causing harm by it. You know what I mean? Because they had that expectation of themselves, right? They were like suppressing their own feelings and they tried to suppress the feelings of other people. Like, oh, well, you're just a spirit soul, therefore XYZ, you should act this way. But the thing is, it's like, as my teacher says, you shouldn't, like, if somebody's trying on the path, like you shouldn't berate somebody for being dirty when they're walking to the shower.
Yeah.
Is the idea is like, if someone feels angry, then we have to acknowledge that anger and create space for them to express it. And only then can they move through it, right? It's the same. We have to treat ourselves the way we're supposed to treat others. Like if you try to suppress someone else's anger, they're only going to become more angry. And that was a lot of what was going on. Yes, my love. My love. Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, baby girl. Yes. Hold on, guys. I'm going to mute myself for a second.
It's okay.
I
We
breath-
should move into breath. It's already 8:20 and meditate.
I was thinking that we were gonna do this and then breathe on our own because time kept going. What time is it? 8:19.
Yeah, so I'll lead us into breath and into the meditation. And then if anyone has to drop, they can just drop or whatever. Let me find my phone.
I gotta go to a quiet place. The kids are gonna start school.
Okay, so let's take, I'm sitting in this cramped corner so I can plug in my laptop.
Is it okay if I lay? I kind of feel like I want to lay in meditation.
Yeah, for me, there's no rules to meditation. Like if you want to go in a different shape and that's your intention and you're mindfully and safe. Sometimes I do legs at the wall. Sometimes I sit on the couch. Sometimes I do heart bench.
I've been doing these guided meditations with hospice. They offer you bereavements and they offer you meditation. Let me tell you, the guided is awesome. It really helps my mind not stray.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's a tool that now you have this tool, and there's so much guided meditation out there, so you find ones that work for you. There's even free ones on Spotify. But
There's something about this woman saying it to me.
yeah.
For whatever reason, online, I didn't find ones that was so beneficial as this woman.
Yeah. We all find our tools.
Actually, I'll try sitting up for now.
I think too, like for me with guided meditation, almost like the sound becomes the drishti. Like if I just focus on
Yeah.
her voice or his voice and stay there with that voice and don't let my mind go to my to-do list, and it just becomes an extra tool. Like instead of sight drishti, it becomes sound drishti. Okay, so let's just take a few breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. And then bring your right hand over to your nose. Close your right nostril with your right thumb. Inhale through your left. Close your left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close right. Exhale left. Taking 3 more rounds on your own breath. You'll exhale out through your left nostril when you're done, taking your time. If you need a few more rounds, go for it. I'm going to set the timer now. And again, if you need to drop on your own, you drop. Bringing hands to class. Namaste. Thank you, Amanda. Have a good day.